Hey YouTube, and welcome back to the next part of our series on Guitar 101, an introduction course. Today I'm going to be using, in each video I'm going to feature a different entry-level instrument, and so today we're going to be using a Squier Strat. This is the entry-level brand for Fender, and as you'll see in many of my videos, as I'm going to be doing a lot of reviews of Squiers, they actually, I mean, especially considering the price, they're really fantastic guitars. Much better than you would expect for the price and so forth. This one is a standard regular Strat with 3 single coil pickups. We'll talk later on what the difference between single coil and humbucker, which are 2 coil. They're the squares, and then you've got P90s. There's a whole world of pickups, and we'll devote an entire lesson just to that. The standard Strat pickup is 3 of these single coils, which is 1 line of pole buttons, little magnetic buttons there. And you have a standard 5-way selector, 1 volume, 2 tone. Very standard setup, traditional setup after they went to the 5-way selector. Okay, so what we're going to be doing today is tuning the guitar and how to achieve a good tune. What does it mean when we're talking tuning? There's a standard tuning, we're going to discuss that and talk about some of the functions of tuning and how to keep a good tone and tune on your guitar. So let's talk for a moment about the different ways that you can tune your guitar. Now, the way that I prefer is using a clip-on tuner. So see, I just struck my low E a little bit high, and we'll talk about what all that means in a moment. But that's the way I prefer to tune. It's silent in that you don't need output. You don't need to have it plugged in. Right now I'm not plugged in at all, so you don't need to have it plugged in order to tune up your instrument, which is very handy, especially if you're tuning between songs and a gig, that sort of thing. Being able to clip on with your instrument off, good stuff. Now there are other ways. There are inline tuners in terms of that you plug into, often in a pedal setup. That's another way to tune. Now the traditional way is to tune using the guitar itself and tune by ear. And we'll devote a few minutes a little later in the video about how that works, but because it's a little more high level, but basically it's 5 to the next one, 5 to the next one, 5 to the next one, then there's 1 4 in there, and then 5 again. And what you're doing is you're striking the same note and seeing if it resonates clearly. We'll talk closer to the end of the video about how to do this. This is a good thing to train your ear, but it can be frustrating because it gets very close, but I'm still hearing the discordance. And to start out especially, and I've used many different methods. Another way is to have a recording device. A lot of people talk about like the apps on their phone. You can get free tuners, or you can buy tuners and such. That's functional, but you have to have it plugged in, and you're using multiple devices there. You have to have it plugged in, and the problem is it's just not as accurate, because what you're getting as an end product, it's going to have reverb or distortion effects and so forth, and that's really going to mess with the ability of the device to hear that, which is why, generally speaking, the industry standard is to do clip-on tuning. Alright, so let's talk for a moment about standard tuning. Now, there are many different ways that you could tune your guitar, but all of that is getting into more advanced territory. To start out with, the standard 6-string tuning, and this applies to acoustic, electric, classical, the standard 6-string tuning is, and we're starting with the big fat low string, E, second, A. Now all these, I haven't tuned this yet. D, G, B, and then back to E. So E, A, D, G, B, E. That is the standard tuning. And it's important to learn that because most of the material that you find out there is going to be in standard tuning. Now, as you get advanced, you can of course branch out, and there's lots of fun tunings that you can do. But to begin, as you are learning, don't go into waters too deep. Okay, start out and just focus on getting good at standard tuning first. Then you can decide, do you want to level up and go somewhere else and go into another tuning. Alright, so let's look at the method that I generally prefer, and that is using a headstock clip-on tuner. Now you're going to want to clip it on to whatever kind of headstock you have. If it's a 3x3, you'll want to kind of go between them. On Fenders, you got this nice big round part up here. Okay, so you're going to want to clip on where it's not actually contacting any of the hardware up here. It's just flat on the wood. Alright, now I tend to prefer the chromatic mode on that, and that is that it'll just give you all the notes out there. There is often, that usually is a C mode if your tuner has little letters on it. There is often a G or guitar mode which will only give you the notes of the 6-string standard tuning. I just prefer the chromatic. I just prefer it. You know, either way, I like the chromatic because you can see exactly where you are. It's not just telling you how you are on that, what it's guessing the string that you're looking at. Okay, so let's look at how this actually works. Now I'm striking my lowest string here, my E string, and you can see on this one there are going to be different colors. This one, it's yellow. This is a snark. It's yellow because it is too high. So I am going to detune. Oh, now I'm all the way down. So these tuners move pretty fast. Different tuners are going to have different ratios and so forth. So I'm going to, as I'm striking it, very, not hard, I'm not slapping the string. Now I'm too low, I'm in the red territory. Oh, getting close. And a little high. Went a little bit too far. Now this is a good opportunity for learning because this is very important. The natural response to this would be to, oh, let me go back down a little bit. You want to go too far down and then tune up into the note. This is a very important for tuning stability. It just has to do with the way that the friction of the gears and the tuning equipment, it's how it works. And if you tune down and where it's loosening, it has a tendency to keep loosening. Whereas if you tighten into the note, okay, so I was a little bit high. See, it's, oh, just a little high, missed it. So I'm going back down and then back up into the note again. So that should be about right. And then you see the A. Now, this was in tune, and so I can expect that each of the different notes is probably going to be around the same place. And the reason this is, and you need to get really good at tuning, you just need to. It's a very essential skill. It's not something that, the more you do it, the quicker you'll get at it. And it's something that you need to be able to do on the fly because guitars will go out of tune. Even high quality, expensive guitars will go out of tune. And it has to do with humidity, temperature, all sorts of different factors. And so you need to be able to recognize what it sounds like when it's out of tune. And so here, let's do a quick chord, and you'll hear, oh, this isn't going to sound right. Oh, that's not pleasant to the ears, is it? That's because these are kind of in tune together, but no, that's just off. It's just off. So if you have an out of tune instrument, it's just not going to sound good, especially in chords. You can maybe get away with a little bit of out of tune in a lead where you're only playing one note at a time, but you play a chord and your guitar's out of tune and it's going, it's just physically painful. So it's very, very important to practice tuning, and every time you sit down, do a quick tune-up. Every time you sit down to play, do a quick tune-up. The more you do it, the faster it'll be. And what you don't want is to sit down to practice, and you're practicing and you're like, why do I sound bad? Because you're not in tune. You've got to be in tune in order to sound good. It's just a physical reality. If you're out of tune, it's going to sound discordant. That is to say, a chord is going to be it's going to be out, it's going to be bad. Ugh, right? It's going to make the hairs in the back of your neck rise up and people wince, right? You've got to be in tune. You're not going to get to the next level. You're not going to sound good, and it can be very frustrating if in practice you're like, why do I sound so bad? Because you got to be in tune. You got to be in tune. So the key, I'm not going to sit here and run through every string, but the key, again, you've seen it's E, A, D, G, B, E, okay, starting from your low string going higher. And so tune up to each one of those, again, so that when you strike the note, it stays in that blue, green, whatever color your tuner's using, stays in that zone. So let's talk for just a moment about ear tuning. And the two basic ways are to ear tune to a tuning fork or pitch device. Like you could have an app and it hits a pitch for you and you try to tune to it. The main way that you see on guitars is when people are tuning internally to the guitar so that each string is in tune with the next string. And this will require you to at least get your bottom note, that bottom E, in tune. So you're going to need some sort of a way to get that bottom E tuned. But once you have the bottom E tuned, which we've done using the clip-on tuner, going up to the 5, the 5th fret, is going to be your next string. And you hear those are ringing together. There's no wah wah wah. It doesn't sound like a UFO. Ringing together. I can strike both strings, same note. Now I intentionally left this next one. Listen to this one. Wow, 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 wow. You hear that? That's it being out of tune. And again, we're going to use the same method, which is we're going to tune the string down and then tune it up to that note. Almost there. You'll notice that the UFO sound will gradually go away. There we go. So again, that's how to internally tune between the strings. And then the next one, the weird one, which we'll talk about in navigating the fretboard, is the 4 up to the B. Because the 5th on this one is C. We'll talk about this more later. But the 4, so it goes 5, 5, 5, 4, 5, going up. Alright, so that is the basics about getting your instrument in tune. Again, the key is to have patience, to just work on it gradually. Don't get, if it's getting frustrating, just set it down for a little bit and come back to it later. But it is important to learn how to tune your instrument. Those clip-on tuners, again, are my preferred way to tune. Just fast, easy, accurate, readily available. You can buy them rather cheaply. Nowadays there's all sorts of choices out there, and so you can get a good quality one. I think a Snark will run you about $20, give or take. So really essential gear. I have them anytime I'm going anywhere to do anything, and I got them in my gig bags. Usually I bring 2 just in case one fritzes out on me or dies or something, but they're really great. And so you just need to get in the habit of tuning. Again, the key takeaway is as you're tuning, start on the lowest string, work up, and you tune up into a note. My wife, who had been playing guitar for many years, I saw her one time when we were playing together, and I saw her tuning, and she tuned down into a note, and I said, "What are you doing?" She said, "I'm tuning." Like, obviously I'm tuning. I said, "You got to tune up into a note." She just looked at me like, "What are you talking about?" And it just has to do with the friction and the way that the tuners hold the tune, that you need to tune into a note so that it's biting, whereas if you're letting it go, it's going to want to keep slipping. Okay, so remember to tune up into the note, and don't get, don't be frustrated if it takes a few times. If you're really close and you go a little over, which we just did in this video, we went a little bit over and just got to do it again. Go down and tune up into it. If you tune down into it, you're going to be frustrated because you're going to lose tune really quickly, and it's just not going to end up sounding good. So very important skill, something to work on every time you sit down. Get it in tune, and if it starts to sound funny, if it starts to sound weird, hey, throw it, keep the tuner on there. Just go ahead and tune it again. Essential skill for good guitarists. So hope you've enjoyed this video. As always, like, comment, subscribe. Love to hear from you, and you'll have a blessed day.